Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for being here today. I am excited to talk to you all about a topic that has the potential to significantly impact our state, and that would be the legalization of gambling in South Carolina. Now, well, some may view this as a contentious issue. I believe that legalizing gambling could provide the state with substantial economic benefits, including job creation, enhancing tourism, as well as ensuring responsible gambling practices. So, let's start off with economic benefits. According to the American Gaming Association, the legal gaming industry generated over $41 billion in revenue for local and state economies across the United States in 2021. Now, if South Carolina were to legalize gambling, we could tap into this significant revenue stream. A study conducted from the University of South Carolina estimated that legalizing gambling could generate up to and even over $200 million annually in state revenue for South Carolina. Now, this additional funding could be used in a variety of ways, but hopefully we could use it in critical areas like education, infrastructure, and healthcare, which we could always use more money in those areas. Also, states that have legalized gambling, they have seen a decrease in their budget shortfalls. So, for example, after the state of Pennsylvania legalized gambling, they reported a substantial increase in tax revenues, which led to investments in public services. And this was found out by the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue in 2022. And so, by following Pennsylvania's model, hopefully South Carolina could improve its financial standing and also provide better services for its residents. So, next, let's talk about job creation. So, the gambling industry is a labor-intensive industry that requires a very wide variety of employees, ranging from dealers and wait staff to security and management personnel. So, the North Carolina Employment Commission reported that the introduction of regulated gambling led to the creation of thousands of jobs that positively impacted local economies. So, in places like South Carolina, where unemployment rates have fluctuated, the gaming industry could actually provide stable, well paying jobs that support families as well as stimulate the local economies. By legalizing gambling, we would not only create employment opportunities, but also foster a sense of community as workers contribute to their local areas. So, another significant advantage of legalizing gambling would be its potential to boost our tourism. South Carolina is well known for its beautiful landscapes, its rich history, as well as its vibrant culture. Adding legalized gambling could attract tourists looking for diverse entertainment options. For example, states like Nevada and New Jersey that have already turned casinos into major tourist attractions that draw millions of visitors each year. According to a report by the National Council on Problem Gambling, legal gambling establishments can enhance local tourism by providing additional attractions and events. Also, by incorporating gambling into South Carolina's tourism strategy, we could hope to increase our foot traffic, encourage spending in local businesses, and ultimately create a more robust economy. So, I also understand that there are some concerns about gambling addiction and social issues. However, with legalization comes the opportunity for regulation. A well structured framework for responsible gambling can mitigate these concerns effectively. States that have legalized gambling have implemented measures such as self exclusion programs, education campaigns, as well as funding for addiction treatment services. For instance, a report from the Massachusetts Gaming Commission noted that regulated environments tend to have lower rates of gambling addiction compared to those where gambling remains illegal. This suggests that proper regulation can lead to safer environments for individuals who do choose to gamble. So, in the end, legalizing gambling in South Carolina presents a unique opportunity for economic growth, job creation, as well as enhancing tourism. Now, while concerns about gambling addictions are valid, they can effectively be addressed through regulation and responsible practices. It is time for South Carolina to embrace this change harness the economic potential of a regulated gambling industry, and finally position itself as a state that prioritizes both growth and responsible choices. Thank you. Now, since I was not able to meet with my group at my allotted time, I just kind of made like a mock Q&A session out of like popular questions that I thought that I may have gotten, or that people, kind of worries that people would have about legalizing gambling in South Carolina. So I'm just going to kind of go through that now. So first question would be, what measures are going to be put in place that would actually prevent gambling addiction, like I stated. So that is a great question, but actually a comprehensive regulatory framework would include, self-exclusion programs, public awareness campaigns, and actual funding for addiction treatment services themselves. These measures have been proven effective in other states where gambling is already legal. So hopefully, it would be ensuring our citizens that they would have access to these resources and support if they were to succumb to gambling addiction. So, question two, what types of gambling would actually be legalized? So, kind of that all depends on, like kind of the logistics of if this were to actually happen. But I'm hoping that South Carolina would legalize, casinos or racinos, as well as all forms of sports betting and online gambling, um, especially places like New York, who recently opened their sports gambling. Those just like they're not just sports gambling, but all sorts of legalized gambling. Those like the DraftKings apps and the things on your phone is where they're making um, a large portion of their money because it's so easy to log on and just place a bet on your phone. That I think South Carolina would definitely benefit from that, but we should definitely do casinos, stuff like that, racinos, and then hopefully some online sports betting would be cool. So now, just a few more questions. How would the state ensure that the revenues from gambling are used effectively? Um, so that's always kind of an issue that people have with paying taxes and things to the government, is that no one truly knows where this money is going. That's why I do believe that transparency and accountability are key. Hopefully we could establish a dedicated, maybe a committee to monitor the allocation of gambling revenues, to ensure that they are directed towards education and infrastructure and healthcare, that, like it was proposed in the studies. So for my final question here, how would legalized gambling affect the social fabric of South Carolina? So I do know that there are, potentially a lot of negative impacts. Um, However, I thought a good comparison for this was, things like alcohol. So alcohol, it's taxed by the government. I assume the government makes a large chunk of change on alcohol and liquor taxes. And as we all know, you can easily become addicted to alcohol, as well as it is very unhealthy for you when people drink it in the amounts that they do. Um, and it has negative health effects on your body. But just because it is something that you can get addicted to and it is not good for you, does not mean that it has been outlawed. So it's been legal ever since the end of Prohibition. So that would kind of be my response to that question would be, um, along with all the studies that show with proper regulation, social problems associated with gambling can be significantly reduced. But also it's been a trend in this country for a while. Just because something is illegal does not necessarily mean that, or just because something is bad for you or could be abused or is not best, for the people living in that area, necessarily that it should be outlawed, if that makes any sense. And so that would conclude my speech, and thank you guys all for listening in.